Hello, this is David Jose coming to you once again, bringing news to the Church of Christ. I wanted to talk to you a little bit because we had this situation where Mr. Dan, I guess it's Dan Bes. I don't know. His name could be Best. I don't know. People say different things, but he wanted to tell us that the church, the word church, should not be in the scriptures. And so, what I wanted to do is go back. He tries to tell us that church means. I'm sorry, that the word ecclesia, which he wants to go back and just talk about Greek, but he won't go all the way back to Hebrew. But he wants to go back and talk about Greek, and he wants to tell us that ecclesia means an assembly or a community, or he will talk about how it said congregations in the old Bibles. But once again, we've seen a lot of deceit from this man, so we got to go back and look and check his story. And I did that just for you. Not only did I go back to look in the scriptures, which show us a ton, I also go back and I look to see what these words mean in the older Bibles, because he brought up the older Bibles and what they say. So I wanted to show you guys the older Bibles. I actually went to the museum for you in order to be able to see what it said. And so what I want to do first is I want to look at a Bible verse. It's going to be Joel chapter 2, and it's going to be verse 15 and 16. I would just want you to hear some of the key words in these verses because I have to go fast, but go look in the King James yourself. Verse 15, you see where it says, blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Then in verse 16, God is going to give us words to define what he means when he uses the word. It's kahal in another language, but it actually, in Hebrew, but the word is actually the word that is used for congregation in the King James. So watch all the words he used to let us know what he's talking about. He says, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children and those that suck the breast, let the bridegroom go forth his chamber, and the bride out of, let's see, what did it say? I can't see all of it. Let's see, the bride out of her closet. Okay? So God lets us know because he puts his own definitions in the word to help us to understand what he's talking about. So he lets us know that the congregation is the gathered people. It's all about the people, just like in the New Testament we're going to see. It said assemble the elders, putting people together. Gather the children, all right? So we see that congregation means the same thing as congregate, to meet together, to gather people together, all right? So from now on, let's not be tricked because we're going to go into the deep things. We're going to start looking at the words actually in that time, all right? In just the 1700s. This isn't even going all the way back to 1600s. Let's look at the 1700s for now. Okay, so here you are with David Jose. I'm going to show you guys a little bit from the 1771. So we see this is 1771 Encyclopedia Britannica, where it's going to explain some of the definitions and an understanding of what churches are. Now, people want to say that church means building, but let's see what it meant even in 1700, so we can see that we've been taken for a loop. So if we look, it says that church has different significations according to the different subjects to which it is applied. It is understood that understood of the collective body of Christians, or all those who believe on the face of the earth who profess to believe in Christ. Now, so we see that. So then we see another one that says church is applied to any particular congregation of Christians. Okay? Okay, so now we're not deceived, we need to understand that the definition that we just read told us that the word church means as a body of believers or a body of Christians. Okay, so if the word church means body or a group of people, we understand that it's talking about the people and not the building. But they try to deceive us, so we have to be very careful. They want us to believe that church means building, but we understand that the church means the body. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so now what I want you to see is this crazy deceit. I'm going to show you a picture and just focus on it. You're going to see where Mr. Barry, a gentleman who I showed in the first video, is going to try to lie to us and deceive us and trick us into believing that the word church actually means building. And he posts the first definition of what church is, and it looks like some type of modern I don't know, dictionary or something. I don't know where it came from. But he lied about what the definition was by deceiving, okay, by holding back information. Now, when we look back, we already saw that church means the body of people, body of Christians, okay? We also see in the Old Testament that the group of people who were called the church in the wilderness or the congregation, they were the people who were gathered and sanctified. But let's see what Chris puts, all right? So the picture is small, but just try to see on the top line to the left what it says, okay? I actually said the first line down, but let's look at the middle where it says building used for public worship. Okay, so we saw what Chris left. Now let's go and look and see what the actual 1537 Matthew's Bible actually says. So we get an understanding of what they believe the word church or the word congregation means. Let's check it out. Okay, so here we have, upon this rock I will build my congregation. So then if you look for the definitions of the words back then, if you look here, you'll see where it says my congregation or church. Now, people have tried to make the argument that if you look in old Bibles, here's the Matthew's Bible, 1537, they try to say that the word church should not be there, and it was rightly said to be congregation, or some Bibles say assembly. Well, here it is in the text of the Bible, they're telling you that assembly and congregation is the same. Church and congregation is the same word. So what deceit these guys are trying to play against us? It's ridiculous. Okay, so just to help us understand, we see that the 1537, I believe it was, Matthew's Bible tells us that the word church and congregation could be interchangeably used there. So people want to tell us that congregation is a good translation and was better because old Bibles used it and King James doesn't do it. But they don't tell us that congregation is a synonym for church. So they're trying to play a game with us. They're trying to get us to not understand that our Bibles are true and what God said. They're trying to knock down our beliefs in what God has shown us. But I tell you, the word church and the word congregation are words that mean the same thing. Now, on top of that, they try to say what means assembly. Well, we saw that the word that was used in the Hebrew that they would use the term ecclesia for, which they always speak about, and they try to use it against the church. But the term that God used when he spoke in Hebrew meant an assembly of the people, a sanctified group, a set apart group. And then he also used that same term for bad people who were brought together as a group, or as a group of people who came together or were brought together. He also used that word for evil people as well. So the thing is, just like today, you'll see where we say the church of Satan. There isn't no way in the world that you could say the church has a meaning that has to do with Christ when you're talking about the church of Satan, or you're using it in ways to represent people who have nothing to do with God. But the difference is that Christ says something. Christ told us that when he used the word ecclesia that they go so crazy over because they're so in love and obsessed with Greek. When Christ used the word ecclesia, he said the ecclesia is the soma, or the church is the body. So he told that the church is the body of people. And that body of people, which are the church, are the ones where Christ is the head. So the church belongs to Christ. And it does wear a name because it wears the name of Christ. We also see in the scriptures that the Bible tells us that the church is called out to Christ. So they want to say, well, the church, the word ecclesia means called out. Well, it actually means assembly or body of people that are brought together or came together. We can see that through the scriptures clearly. But to try to say that, it means called out because it's made out of a compound word, and then you try to take away the fact that it means a congregation or to congregate, a group of people coming together, would be false. Okay? So let's stop trying to play games. Don't let them deceive. Don't let them try to do what they're trying to do with destroying the church. That is their whole purpose. That is what they have been trying to do. They hate Christ and his church, and they're just trying to destroy us. So there we go. So Until next time, David Jose News coming to you, bringing the truth to the church, bringing the news to the church, helping us to see what God has said. We understand that this ecclesia, or the church, is the same thing. That's why in Spanish, when you look at the word iglesia, a close word, what does it mean? The church. Not the building, but the group of people. Okay, so English word, we have words that have multiple definitions. So if you're using a word that has multiple definitions, you don't have to have every single definition of the word mean the same thing as another language. You need to be able to explain what God is saying in words that the people can understand that mean the same thing in the context that it's in. So there we go. They are trying to deceive. They're not being honest about what they're doing. And history and the Bible, which is perfect history, proves it. All right? There we go.